Remember to lock your windows and doors tonight, and maybe install an alarm. Here are 5 creepy home invasion stories. Number 5. The Homeless Woman of Tokyo. It's 2008. A man living alone in his home in Tokyo, Japan, starts to hear noises at night and faint breathing. At first he suspects it was paranormal, so begins to write down the events that were happening. He noticed that food started to go missing from his fridge and dirty towels would be placed around his house. He then started to believe that someone might have broke in, so he set up cameras in his house which sent live video footage to his phone. He went out one night and stayed in his car while he watched the live footage of his home. He saw a woman walking around his house. He was convinced this was the burglar and contacted the police. The police arrived at his house and searched the property. They found the woman hiding in a cupboard. She had laid out a thin mattress and had several water bottles. Police said that there was just enough room for her to lay down. When police found her, they said she was curled up nervously on her side. The woman told police that she had nowhere to live and that she had been living in a cupboard in a room that the man rarely uses for over a year. She had gained access to the house when she was trying to open doors of houses in a neighborhood and his was unlocked. She had lived in several people's houses for years and kept switching when she was caught. The woman didn't steal any money or items from the house, but she did eat the man's food and use his shower and toilet. She was charged with trespassing. Number 4. The Valet Stalker. This invasion happened in 2005 to a nurse named Michelle Fredenberg. Michelle worked as a nurse in a hospital in Washington, D.C. One day, in early 2005, she met a man named Carlo Feria. He also worked in the hospital car park as a valet. They talked for a while and had the usual friendly conversation, introducing himself and whatnot. After this, Carlo became obsessed with Michelle and started to stalk her. He stalked her for several months, and one day he valeted her car. Her house keys were on the same keyring as her car keys. Carlo made a copy of her house keys, and in December 2005, Carlo entered Michelle's home and set up cameras in her bedroom. He also stayed in her room, and whenever he heard her coming towards the room, he would hide under her bed. After 2 days of hiding, Michelle's boyfriend caught Carlo. He pulled him out from under the bed and phoned the police. Carlo kept a bag with him under the bed, which contained condoms, latex gloves, a change of clothes, and a power cord. Carlo was arrested and police searched his house. They found 6 framed pictures of Michelle and a stack of unframed pictures of her. They also found a video of Michelle from her first wedding. Carlo had broken into Michelle's ex-husband's house to obtain the items. Carlo was convicted and got 3 years in jail. In court, he said, "I was madly in love and it clouded my judgment." He then begged for forgiveness. The creepy event was made into a film called Under the Bed. Number 3. Creepy Ex-Boyfriend. In September 2012, a woman named Tracy started to hear strange noises coming from her attic. Tracy was a single mother of 5 who lived in Rock Hill, South Carolina. The noises from the attic continued for several days, so Tracy and her 2 sons went to investigate, but they found nothing. Tracy's children thought she was just hearing things, but Tracy was certain that something was up there and she felt very uneasy. One day, Tracy was in her bedroom using her laptop and she noticed loud sounds coming from the attic. Parts of the plaster fell from the ceiling and landed on her. Then one night at 2:30 AM, Tracy heard a loud thud come from the attic. It scared her and she was sure that someone or something was up there. Tracy got her nephew to search the attic, and in the corner of the attic, they found Tracy's ex-boyfriend who she dated 12 years prior. He had been living in her attic for 2 weeks. He broke into her home shortly after being released from prison for stealing her car. Her ex-boyfriend ran out of the house before police arrived. Police found several cups in the attic. They were filled with feces and urine. There was also little holes in the ceiling which the ex-boyfriend cut so he could watch Tracy. There have been no reports of the ex-boyfriend being caught, so he might still be out there today. Number 2. Danny LaPlante story. There isn't much surrounding this case, but it sure is a creepy one. It is 1985. A 15-year-old boy named Danny from Townsend, Massachusetts is madly in love with his girlfriend and spends every moment with her. The girl then breaks up with Danny and it made him distraught. He went missing for 2 weeks. Danny's ex-girlfriend was babysitting her 2 sisters. They began to watch a movie, and during it they noticed weird occurrences started to happen around the house. They opened a bag of popcorn and left half of it in the kitchen. They went to get more popcorn and it had disappeared. The movie had finished and the girls went to change to get ready for bed. The youngest child, who was 8, opened her closet in her bedroom and found Danny standing there with a hatchet. He was dressed in the girl's dead mother's clothes and he had makeup smeared all over his face. He told the child to be quiet and he then tied her up. He made his way through the house and tied up all of the sisters. He then placed them in the 8-year-old's bedroom. He told them he was going to kill them and he told them they better start praying and he would be right back. He left the room to look for anything valuable he could steal. The 8-year-old managed to loosen the rope and jumped out of her window and ran to the neighbour's house and told them to call the police. Danny fled the scene and wasn't found by the police. The family went and stayed with relatives for 2 weeks to get away from the house. During this time there was still no sign of Danny. The 2 weeks passed and the family returned home. They are walking up the driveway and see Danny standing at the window looking at them. The father starts to yell and the neighbours surround the house. The police shortly arrive and search the house. They didn't find Danny, but they found a disturbing scene. Pennies were glued to the ceiling of the house and there was strange writings all over the walls, and all of the family's clothes and furniture had been ejaculated on. Police continued to search the house and made it into the basement. They heard noises coming from the wall behind the washing machine. They moved the washing machine and found a hole in the wall. They found Danny there. Danny had been living in the walls of the house for the 2 weeks that he went missing after his girlfriend broke up with him. They found several holes that Danny cut into the walls so that he could spy on the family. Danny was arrested but didn't receive much jail time as he was so young. Then in May 1987, just 2 years later, Danny went on a murderous rampage. He broke into a family home and raped and killed a mother and a boy aged 4 and a girl aged 6. He drowned all 3 of them in a bathtub. Number 1. Hinterkaifeck invasion. Hinterkaifeck is a small farm located in a small town in Germany. It was the scene of the most bizarre and puzzling crime in German history. On March 31st, 1922, the 6 people who lived in a house on the farm were found murdered. They had been killed with a pickaxe. Days before the murder, the owner of the farm told neighbours that he'd discovered footprints in the snow leading from the forest to his farm. The strange thing was that there were no footprints leading back. He also told them that he heard footsteps in the attic and he had found a newspaper he didn't purchase placed in the house. Also, his house keys went missing days before the murders, but he didn't report it to the police. 6 months before the murders, the maid who worked at the house quit as she believed the house was haunted because she kept hearing strange noises and footsteps coming from the attic. On the day of the murders, each person living at the house was lured into a barn one by one. They were then killed. The murderer then went into the house and killed a 2-year-old who was sleeping in his cot. He then also killed the new maid who was working there. In the barn, the murderer killed the oldest residents first, which were the owner of the farm and his wife. He then killed their daughter and the daughter's child, who was 7. The child didn't die immediately and had been lying on the floor of the barn for hours, covered in blood, laying next to the bodies of her grandparents and mother. The murderer had been living in the attic for several days before he murdered the family, but he might have been living there longer due to the maid's complaints of noises coming from the attic months previous. The crime still remains unsolved today and the killer was never caught. All of these are true stories. I've left the sources in the description if you want to read about them. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video then give it a thumbs up, and also don't forget to subscribe to keep updated with our latest videos. Goodbye.